what it means, what transportation money means. And as we talked about earlier, our gas taxes go into a big transportation fund, and a big chunk of that is then taken out. Instead of what you pay in gas taxes being there to fix your roads and bridges, it is sent to Philadelphia and Pittsburgh for their mass transit. And that needs to stop, because that's putting good money after bad. We talked a little bit earlier about mass transit, but it is a mess there. They are poorly run. There's no reason for us to be paying for that. And I just have to say something. I know I'm going off schedule, but campaigns are not funded by tax dollars. So to say that, you know, we can put all that money back into healthcare, that would be a terrific thing to have all those donors do that. But campaigns here are not funded by tax dollars. They are funded by contributions. Thank you.
1 minute, Dr. Bompiani.
Yes. If I alluded to the fact that it was tax dollars and put back in your pocket, I apologize to you. It is. They are funded by contributions. Contributions from lobbyists, contributions from special interest groups and PACs. And that money should never be given to the level that it's given to win these seats. Those monies then can go to the programs that I discussed, the program to make sure people have their heating bills. The monies would be freed up for people to make donations toward that, and we can encourage that as a legislature to send the funds there. If you're going to try and buy our vote, try and buy it by sending it there. That's all I'm discussing. That's all I'm saying. And we have to stand together through this economic time. This is terrible. It's terrible for everyone. There's not one person that isn't going to suffer from this, other than maybe the people with the golden parachute. But if it totally collapses, they're not going to get along either, because gold doesn't back our currency anymore. You have to join together and link together. Those monies can be earmarked to help people less fortunate than Commissioner Ward and myself.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Oh, okay. Yeah, again, that would be a great concept, but that would mean that we, and you and I, and the government are telling people what to do with their money. Campaigns are also financed by small contributions, by friends and by people who believe in change in government and want to see a change in government and believe in that candidate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One more time, this is the AARP Candidates Forum at Mountain View Inn this morning, and our candidates are Commissioner Kim Ward and Dr. Bompiani, running for the 39th Pennsylvania Senatorial District. The next question has to do with the lottery fund and home and community-based care. Do you support or oppose using lottery revenues to expand existing home and community-based care programs offered by the local area agencies on aging? And this question goes to Commissioner Ward first.
Yeah, I absolutely support that. And moreover, you know, our government has just borrowed or taken $300 million out of the lottery fund that they shouldn't be able to touch. I support that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Bompiani?
I would support it as well, and the Medicaid fund ran low in the budget, so they did take the $290 million, Commissioner Ward says, and took it out of the lottery funds and then put it into the budget to try and shore it up. And again, this goes back to the budgetary process. I find it unconscionable as a school board member where our budget is about $70 million. If I was given that budget 18 hours before I'm asked to vote on it, especially a budget as large as this state. And that's what was done with our state legislature. You're given a budget 18 hours before. How do you get representation from them? How do you get honest dialogue with it? How do you get line-by-line efficiency? And we'll go to the WAM money, that's walking around money, or the BORC, whatever you want to call it, that's in the caucuses. There's 4 caucuses, a Democratic and Republican caucus for both houses of the legislature, and there's also another one for the governor. And it totals about $400 million a year dollars. That's called the power of incumbency. They give this out to each other for their local areas, and they say it's because their representatives know best what the local area needs, and that's how they fund a lot of these things. This money should be put into the budget and put into a place where the honest grants, equal grants for programs such as this can be vied for and be had without having the lawmakers come in and say, okay, I'm getting you this money, so now remember me on election day. And this is the power of the incumbency, this is the power of leadership, and this is one power that has to stop. And it has to stop by electing people who are not connected to all of them. People who are going to Harrisburg to do a job and not get a job. People that will go in and won't tell them what they want to hear. Will tell them what they need to hear. And that is your wishes, and it will make life better for you.
Thank you, Dr. Bompiani. Did you wish to add anything?
Sure. You know, as you talk about WAMs, they really are a incumbent protection fund. They go out and they pass money around and they deal with that. And I agree with that. Should all be opened. Another thing that is just wrong there is all that franking. You know, in election years, you start to get glossy pieces of mail from your incumbent senators and state reps. You start to see these commercials that are, they look like they are to tell you something, but they really are just a campaign commercial. And you know, we try to get some information on that. You try to get some information on what they're spending on that, you can't do it. You can't find out what your legislature is paying to go ahead and promote themselves so that they can get reelected. I agree. I do think that is a problem. All over our legislature is a problem. And that's why we need to elect people that will go in there and fight hard and fight against their own party, fight against the other party, and just fight for what's right.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have time for another question, and this one goes to Dr. Bompiani first. And it reads, how do you stand on holding a constitutional convention to enable the adjustment of the tax code so that we can have a graduated income tax and other similar progressive taxes?
We need to be careful calling a constitutional convention because people, you know, and I even thought that when I first started that calling a constitutional convention is wonderful. We'll go in and just rewrite everything and what we're supposed to be doing, but we let open a lot of our rights that are provided for by the Constitution by opening a complete constitutional convention, and that isn't necessarily a good thing. So I would support a limited constitutional convention to look at that and other aspects. And I would never sit here and tell you that I'm in favor of a graduated tax or in favor of this change or that change to tax. I mean, I've heard some interesting things over the years. I read an interesting book this year called A Fair Tax, which is a consumption tax, which is being promoted in the federal level to change all of our tax system to a consumption tax, whereby you pay almost like a sales tax, but you're paying a higher sales tax. It's 23%. However, there are no other taxes, and you don't pay any consumption tax up to the first 20,000 or so from what the book is saying. And I'm not saying I'm for that. I'm just saying that there are so many ideas and so many thoughts that we need to take into consideration everything and anything that we can do to lower the tax burden for our citizens. But one thing we definitely need to remember at all times, the first thing that needs to be done before we start shooting from the hip and saying we're going to change this tax code, or we're going to do this for you, we're going to try this, is remember how the business is done. We have to remember the shell game. We can't quit remembering that. We can't stop. And before we call that, we need to look in the mirror as a legislator, and we need to make cuts. We need to run our budget like you run your budget. We need to get in there, cut the spending, cut the frivolity with the money, and make sure that before we do anything to a tax code, before we change anything, it's the right thing. I'll go back to the UCC codes that were put up right now. And I'll go back, I'll go to them. They enacted UCC codes, which I think that all of us are frustrated with right now. But the way they enacted it is they passed it without knowing what the policy was going to be or how they were going to implement it. And that's wrong. We need to make sure we know what we're doing ahead of time.
Thank you, Dr. Bompiani. Commissioner Ward.
You know, I do appreciate the limited constitutional convention comment. I do think, however, that anything we can do that gives taxpayers, the people paying the taxes, a voice on how they pay their taxes is very, very important to getting back to accountability and to cutting our spending. And I would also like to address the UCC code because in Hemphill Township, we didn't pass that. We took on Governor Rendell, and we supported our fire companies that asked us not to accept the UCC classifications because our own township codes were better for public safety. So we supported them, and you know, about a month ago, I guess Pennsylvania came back to Hemphill and said, you have to do this or else. But again, that was a government mandate that we stood up for, and we fought against Ed Rendell and Harrisburg on that issue.
Dr. Bompiani.
Yes, as a lot of municipalities did, and thank God.